Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about Adrian Plate. Chances are you don't know who Adrian Plate is. I'm going to try to give you some information about Adrian Plate. A person by the name of Savant Reveals asked me to do this, so I'm going to do this. Now, Adrian Plate was born 1844, passed away 1919. He moved to New York in 1877 and became a successful society magician, probably the Steve Cohen of his time. Perhaps that's not fair, but something like that. Something like that. That's the kind of person he was. That's the way he's represented in the literature. Plate was one of the first members of the Society of American Magicians. His membership number was number 25. Became a member in 1902. Dr. Ellison thought that Adrian Plate was the best sleight of hand card worker he had ever seen. John Northern Hilliard also thought that this person's card work was the best he had ever seen. Houdini inherited Adrian Plate's library. I'm going to give you some more information about that in a minute. Tons and tons of books and magazines ended up in Houdini's possession. He invented the untying knot, which consisted of tying a knot in the center of a handkerchief, holding it in one hand, and it unties itself. We've all probably seen that trick. It's still done today. He wrote magician's tricks and how they are done with Henry Hatton. I have that book is in my library, but my library's 90% of it's in boxes in the basement, so I have not been able to find it. Now, what I did, I had a vague reference to an article that was written and published in the MUM magazine, which is the magazine of the Society of American Magicians. It was published, by the way, this is the article right here. If you don't know that you can do this, let me tell you right now. If you are a member of the Society of American Magicians, you can access the archives of the MUN magazine through the website. If you don't know how and you're interested, please contact me off this path here and send me an email, and I will help you find your way doing that. Anyway, I knew that the article existed. It was written by Harry Houdini. It's called An Appreciation of Adrian Plate. It was published in MUM, Volume 8, Number 72, March 1919. Now remember, Adrian Plate passed away in 1919, so Houdini wrote this article shortly after Adrian passed away. I'd like to share this with you. I want to put this on record. And I want to do this for a number of reasons. And I may stop as I read this and explain why it is that I think this is so important to have a record of it. But this is Houdini's article published in MUM, March 1919, Appreciation of Adrian Plate. With the passing of Adrian Plate, magic has lost a devoted adherent and the Society of American Magicians a valued friend. His was the first name added to the membership roll following the charter members. His membership number was 25. And he was always earnestly interested in the objects for which the society stands. When I first met him years ago, I saw at once that he was one of the most alert and well-informed students of magic that I had ever encountered. He knew every trick that I had performed in my old museum days. And when I expressed surprise, he brought forth a book in which he had written the tricks as well as the program of most of the prominent performers for many years past. For 25 years, he collected data on magic and magicians. And 2 years ago, his material found its way into my collection. Houdini doesn't explain how it found its way into his collection. But it did. All of this material that Adrian Plate had collected, his entire library. I mean, I have a huge library. I someday I hope to leave it to someone. But Adrian, and I'd love to hear more about the story, but Houdini just doesn't provide it. His collection of books, before he commenced to dispose of them, was without doubt the best kept magical library extant. I feel that I am in a position to make this statement, having seen nearly all the well-known libraries of this kind in the world. He invented a number of clever parlor tricks, the one most prominent being the untying knot in the handkerchief. I've referenced that before. In collaboration with Henry Hatton, Plate wrote the well-known book Magician's Tricks and How They Are Done. He held a position for over 35 years. Now, as a human resource professional, this really struck at me. Adrian Plate was not a full-time performer. He was a part-time professional. That doesn't diminish his contribution. It doesn't diminish his contribution. It should not diminish anyone's contribution. He was a professional in business. And here's the story that Houdini tells. He held a position for over 35 years in a railroad timetable office. But when the management changed, he was dropped without warning. Without warning or reward for his years of faithful service. This recalls the like fate of our late compeer Andrew Waring, who was employed many years by a great corporation, and when he became sick, his employer lived up to the heartless reputation of such institutions and forgot him entirely. Whatever was done to ease poor Waring's last days was done by friends, not by the company. Secretary Tier went far out of his way many a time to cheer up his old friend. Plate was more fortunate at the end, as he was at least cared for. For the last few years, Plate has appeared as an entertainer at the summer hotels and at the homes of the elite of New York. That's why he reminds me a lot of Steve Cohen, because Steve Cohen served this marketplace, and so did Adrian Plate. I visited him 2 weeks ago on his cot at the Flushing Hospital. So Houdini goes on to tell the story here about how the Society of American Magicians provided for him in his last days. Houdini goes on to say, "It was to me a most convincing argument in favor of one huge Society of Magicians." Listen to this now. It was to me a most convincing argument in favor of one huge Society of Magicians, in which all shall sink their petty differences and work as one man to place magic on parity with other arts. Henry Evans, in answer to my letter, informed him of the passing of Adrian Plate, said, "I am very sorry to hear of Plate's death. I've known him for these last 20 years, and a kinder, more affable gentleman never lived." So, Dreams. Thank you so much for asking for this. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe down below if you've not done so already. Please comment. I love your comments. Have a great day.